read through the text thoroughly. Then what you have to do is you have to just prepare. Sandy sir, can you please mute the mic? Okay, so what you have to do is focus on the topics which I've given you, linguistic chauvinism. You can relate it to the present situation, to the present world, and compare it to the background in which the story takes place. Yeah, all these things can be done. A comparative study can be done to the present situation, education system, and how we are treating as a student, how you treat your studies, your academics, all this, however possible. So, and you be ready for a 2-minute speech. Maximum is 2 minutes. Anyone preparing a speech should not go beyond 2 minutes. So, everyone has to be ready with your speech. Randomly, I'll be calling your name. Yeah, you have to be ready with your speech. And I didn't announce the date in that. I will soon announce the date. So, be ready. Start preparing for it. And after conducting the seminar, so once the seminar is going on, when you are not talking, when the others, your friends are talking, you can take down the notes. Okay, you can take down the notes. You can ask questions. You can agree with them. You can disagree with them. Is it clear, children? Just like a debate, but then not a pure debate. So before we move on to the session, shall we start with a prayer? Blessed. Can you please say the prayer?
Let me take it.
Oh. And one more thing, children, when you are preparing the seminar speech, make sure that you are making it in record, right? Print it somewhere or write it somewhere in an A4 sheet. There should be an evidence that you have prepared for the seminar. After you are done with the seminar, the given speech can be done again and you can file it as an assignment. Okay? And the text back notice writing was there. Something else was there. What was it, Sankir? What was the other assignment? Text back assignment? And all of you please get ready with the other text, Vistas, okay? Vistas. Today we are going to do Vistas, the first chapter from Vistas. Listen, are you ready?
No, 1 minute.
All of you please turn on the camera if possible. Because it was told in the beginning that it is mandatory to keep the camera on. And please, 11th see, I am not teaching in 11th now. Yeah, start the classes, yes, for 11th standard. John Chevian, you're in 12th standard now. Please rename it. Sankir, tell me what was the other assignment. Quickly.
I think reading comprehension.
Knew that? Notice writing was there. Anyone? Parthiv, can you just tell me what all were the assignments which I give you? Sankir. Yes, Sankir. Parthiv, can you hear me, Parthiv?
Notice writing and some seminar.
That's all. Notice writing and a seminar.
Yes.
The other one was supposed to be done in the notebook, right? A debate was there. Don't you remember? Oh, I am the student here. You people are the teachers, no? You give the assignment and you forget. Okay, Blessel, are you back?
Yes, sir.
All of you fold your hands. Join your hands for the prayer.
O God, our loving Father, make us all through today, diligent in our studies and fair in our games, loving in our relations and clean in our pleasures, obedient to our teachers, true to our friends, and in everything loyal to you. Bless our school, our dear country, and the whole of mankind, now and always, forever and ever. Our Father in heaven, holy be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who sin against us. Do not bring us to the test, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Okay. Thank you. What is the speciality of June 5th? You can tell me. Anybody know?
Environment Day.
It's World Environment Day. So, have you all planted a sapling? Yes, at least to pose for the photo. I thought teacher had asked you to. Yes, Gopal, you have taken the clip.
Yeah, I've done it, ma'am.
Okay. So all of you don't forget to share the clip to your class teacher. Yeah. Fine. So are you ready with the textbook Vistas? Vistas.
And which chapter today?
First chapter, the third level. In Vistas, we are going to do the first chapter, third level. Amen. Don't talk in between. Amen. Whom are you talking to? Huh? Somebody is distracting you there. I can see that. A smile is there on your face. Otherwise, it's still like. Okay. Please name yourself properly. 12th standard with division. Don't forget to do that. If not, you will not get the attendance. Whoever is taking the attendance will not find you in the class. That means you will be marked absent. I hope all of you have done it properly this time. Yeah. 12B. Lakshya Raj. Make it capital B. Lakshya. That's where I begin. So get ready with your books, children. Hmm. 113. Out of 138, 113 only join. The Avani, you didn't give your class and division. Avani M. Please rename yourself and join.
Sure, ma'am. Yeah.
And by the way, I told you to give your class and division in the Zoho classroom, children. Maybe your email ID has to be slightly changed, altered. Your class and division will come along with the email ID. That's fine, no?
No, ma'am, it will not change like that. You have to change it in the Zoom website.
What?
A name that will come in the Zoom meeting.
No morning. I'm talking about the Google Classroom. Zoom meeting, yes, you have to change it. Google Classroom also you have to give the class and division. Otherwise, no. 138 of you and only 131 have joined my Google Classroom. I don't know about the other rest of the 7. Whether they want it or not. Whether they want to be a part of my class or not, I do not know. Who all have not yet joined, I do not know. Only 131 students have logged in so far. Even after repeatedly sending the reminder through the WhatsApp. I've been reminding you over and again. Now I won't remind you. So whatever you submit, you will be given marks. And the names I'm going to take note of. Those who have not joined, hereafter I will not let them enter my class. So today is the last day for you to log in, those who have not logged in. Anyone who is seated here, if you are not there in the Google Classroom, please make sure you are logged in. Abel Chirian, please write your class and division along with your name. So the third level is the chapter that we are going to see today. Okay. So in third level, does the name suggest something to you? The third level? You can talk, okay. Third level. Does the name suggest something to you? I'm looking at you all and I'm listening again. Anyone? Please turn on the camera. Please keep the camera on. Only very few faces. Sorry?
Progression.
Progression. Third level. Okay. Yeah. Good attempt. Anybody else? Riya said the answer. Anybody else? No one else.
Level of basement.
Okay, level of a basement. Okay, good. Somewhere very close you have reached. Okay. So then, don't you think the past is a good place to visit children? But certainly not a good place to stay. Right. The third level by Jack Finney is an engrossing story set in the 1950s. And the story is studded with numerous undertones of irony and it takes you back in time. Okay, it was a world when people hadn't seen two of the bloodiest wars in the history of mankind, World War I and II. Yeah, And the story brings to light the fact that figments of someone's imagination can be used for shying away from reality, which in all fairness is harsh enough, right? So in the 1950s, people were scared. The threat of the atom bomb was fresh in everyone's mind. Children were required to do duck and cover drills at school, and Russians have launched the Sputnik, the artificial Earth satellite. So the Cold War was inflaming, and the demagogues were saying communists may be hiding in their own government. Demagogues are demagogues means what, children? The agitators, okay, the warmongers. So in this atmosphere, Jack Finney wrote a book about escape. So in this, the third level, this story, third level, it's a collection of short stories, okay? And in England, it is known as a clock of time. Finney wrote about people who are upset with the world they live in, okay? And they seek some idyllic place in country's recent past. In the story, you will see the mysterious level of Grand Central Station, which leads the protagonist to a town in Ohio in 1894. Let's take a closer look at the story. So before moving into the story, I would like to put some light on the theme of the story. Please all of you note it down in the text itself. Somewhere on the top part there is space. You can note it down. Theme is, the story actually dwells on the theme of escapism. Hope all of you are writing. Please write it down. Later I won't repeat it. Take a pen or a pencil and write it down. The story dwells on the theme of escapism, not only as a psychological refuge from the grim realities of the present world, but also as a desire to stay with the past, or to keep the past live in the complexities of the present. So that is what escapism is, the central theme of the. So we also Jack Finney is the third level. This story is also a projection of time travel and space travel, children. So in the theme you can write time and space travel. Though this concept has been broached by H.G. Wells in his book The Time Machine, and also you might have come across a similar theme in the lesson The Adventure by Jayant Narlikar in grade 11. Do you remember doing that? Yeah. So this is the concept of time travel in the form of teleportation. It's a very familiar concept for those who have watched the Star Trek TV series and movie-beside movies, Interstellar, Inception, and the list goes on. Even the latest one is the web series Dark. How many of you are watching Dark? My God.
Oh yeah, that is, I've watched that.
Yeah, you have watched that. So, complicated. In the beginning, it's fine, but then towards, when it is heading towards more and more.
I actually watched it like a year and a half ago, so at that time it was like really confusing for me. My sister had to walk me through what all happens.
Okay. So actually, my cousin, he suggested me, cousin's son suggested me Dark, and I watched the series. I loved it, but then at some point I'll get so confused that I'll stop watching. Then I have to go back a few episodes. So time traveling is actually a really confusing concept. So he has done it so beautifully here. The author Jack Finney has actually done it so beautifully in this story. You can actually relate to it. So this story actually goes to an intersection of in time and space. For that matter, an escape mechanism that helps us escape the harsh realities of the world for a brief time is what the story focusing on. Okay, and Jack Finney has deliberately left the interpretation open-ended in order to convey a sense of randomness in a world that seems to be so well ordered. So the interpretation of the story towards the end is left to you readers. Yeah. Let's see. Take a closer look of the story. Yeah. And the story takes place in Grand Central Station, and Grand Central Station sits in the middle of New York City. It is one of the largest railroad stations in the world, and each day thousands of passengers pass through the station's massive hall. Every day, adventures take place there, but no adventure was stranger than Charlie's visit to the third level. Charlie is the protagonist. Okay, so before we move into the chapter, before we start reading it, I would like to share a few slides which talks about the Grand Central Station in detail and a few photos that you need to know. By seeing the photos, it will be very easy for you to comprehend the terms in the text. Okay, sit tight and take a closer view of the photos I am going to share. So, there it comes. Before I show the photos, let's see the slide that talks about Grand Central Station. I'm going to share the screen actually. Can you see that? Yeah. In
Yes, ma'am.
1908, the excavation of Grand Central Station began in New York. This is a view of the balcony in Grand Central Station taken between 1913 and 1930. This is where the Apple Store is located today. Okay. This is a view of one of the many arched corridors in Grand Central Station taken in 1912. The main character, Charlie, walks down one of these corridors on his way to the third level. That's what we are going to get to see. So when you're talking about the arched corridors, this thing should come into your mind. Okay. Another arched corridor, the man in the black clothes is wearing a derby hat. That's what I told you. More and more photos are coming up for you to relate to the terms that you come across in the chapter. In the background, to the left, you see more corridors and arches, right? On the right, you see the old ticket station. To take a closer look, an interesting feature of this picture is the ghostly feel of the people see. It was taken in 1912. Sometimes this happens when we take a click, right? A ghostly effect will come for the picture. Yeah. Now the picture was taken in 1990 and it is an outside view of the terminal from Vanderbilt Avenue and 42nd Street. This is where Charlie entered the station in the story. Okay. 20th Century Limited was an express passenger train that ran between Grand Central Terminal and La Salle Station in Chicago. It was operated by the New York Central Railroad from 1902 until 1967. Metro North commuter arrived at New York Grand Central Terminal on January 11, 1996. It's mentioning the year and date for you to know. See, the clock above the Grand Central Terminal information booth still ticks off the time, 100 years after it was built. The world's largest terminal covers 49 acres with 33 miles of track. Over 7 lakh people pass through the terminal every day and it operates over 700 trains per day. Members of the National Guard watch commuters as they walk through the main concourse on January 2013. This is the roof, okay, ceiling. The images on the ceiling of the main concourse depict the constellations and are made of gold leaf. You see that? See, sometimes we get to see such ceilings in our classroom. It's like Grand Central Station ceiling. You won't show your face until you show your ceiling. This photo shows construction of a new line that will open, connecting the Long Island Railroad with a new concourse underneath Grand Central Terminal. Okay. These are the things that you're going to see. Derby hat. See? Spittoons. You will come across the word spittoon. We have seen spittoon. No, arch is this. Yeah? Spittoons are jar-like container. You might have seen it in real. Even in your ancestral home, you might have seen it. Have you seen that?
Yes, ma'am.
You know the Malayalam term for it? Kolandi. Yeah? That's the Malayalam term for it. In olden days, people chew tobaccos. No? So, for them to spit, they can't spit here and there. For them to spit, these spittoons were kept inside the house. I have one spittoon at home. Derby hat now nobody is using, but then it's an antique piece now. Derby hats. These are the derby hats. Now leg of mutton sleeve that puff outward the shoulder. All these terms you are going to come across. The leg of mutton sleeve. This is the fashion. This was a fashion then in 1894. Currency. That is the money, the note. See, different types of currencies. Premium additional charge. Now this is Jack Finney in his older years. His book, The Body Snatchers, then different covers, The Body Snatchers, different ways. Galesburg, Illinois. California Sapphire, Burlington Road, Galesburg, Illinois. Okay, name can be seen in Galesburg. This is the Galesburg to which our protagonist wants to go back to. And this is the new era Galesburg. Now, shall I show some more photos? Yeah? Yeah. I know you would like to get distracted with all those things. Other than studies, you know. One second, should my something. A few more clicks were there, which I wanted to show you. Wait. If not possible, I'll be showing it in the next class. Anyhow, the terms that you need to get familiar, I have shown the picture. Share it. Okay, this is the place where he reaches when he enters the third level. Okay, all look at the furniture, look at the deck. I mean, how it is furnished.
Mom, it's not visible.
Not visible.
No, Mom.
No, Sanket.
Ma'am, we can't see.
One second. Now.
Yes, Mom.
Yeah. So this is the old style where the furnitures were like this, or the walls were wooden panels. See? This is the visor. Look at the thing that is kept on his head, that man's head. You see that? Just take a very close look. Eye shade. That is a green eye shade that you get to see in the text. Okay, we call it visor. Nowadays, when it is sports day, you all wear it and walk around. And look at the sleeves. Yeah, long black sleeve protectors. Can you see that? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
These are the men in 1894. This is how the attire of those men in 1894. This is a spittoon. Now, can you relate the spittoons? Something like this, a brass spittoons you get to see here in Kerala, or the steel spittoons. Now, spittoons are there in hospitals, and when you go, you will find, but then it is in totally different shape and stainless steel. This is a boot that you come across, which is worn by the women those days. I'll tell you what. Black, like those, the leg of mutton sleeve, sideburns, leg of mutton sleeve. Yeah. Again, the visor. Look at the way you have done it. You have to relate the story and the scenes when you read it, okay, with this picture. See the ticket counter then. Leg of nothing, sleeve. Leg of nothing, sleeve. That is career and ease locomotive. So the narrow corridors. This is the launch of Roosevelt Hotel. Even that is mentioned. See the sleeve that use black sleeve or brown sleeve protectors these are. Okay. Central Park. These again. These are straw hats made out of straw. Straw hats. Derby hats. These are the whiskers. Okay. Of men those days. This is the style in which they used to take the sideburns. These are the sideburns. Okay, sideburns of men. And this is again a fan made out of straw. You might have seen this fan at home. Do you have it at home? Nowadays nobody buys this. This is handlebar mustache. See? Fashion day. Well, this is a chain clock which should use then. They, instead of watch, they used to carry a small clock like this. Okay. Gas light burns these where you come up gas light. Okay. Gas light these are. Bank Central Station. Again, this is all the lane that leads to the Bank Central Station inside of the Bank Central Station. Yeah. These are the lapels, okay, children, lapels. We'll come across the term lapel, lapel of a coat, okay? Who is this, children? Roger Moore as Bond, James Bond. You will come across tan gabardine. This is tan gabardine, okay? Gabardine is actually a material, a cotton-like material, and tan is a color, this color, okay? The protagonist is wearing a tan gabardine in this, and you will come across that. So just for you to relate labels, again to show the labels. Repetition. This is the newspaper which you get to see in this. That is the World. Okay, an edition of the World. Okay, now when you read the text, all these things will come into your mind and you can easily relate to when I say the meaning. Now who is going to read for me? Gayatri, 12A, are you there? Gayatri Lal, you are, right? Gayatri, can you read the text for me, the chapter?
Yes, ma'am.
The others, please look into the text and do underline whatever I ask you to. Okay, the important points I ask you to underline. Yeah, please.
The third level, Jack Finney. Have you ever had any curious experience with others find hard to believe? The presidents of the New York Central and the New York, New Haven and Hartford railroads will swear on the stack of timetables that are only two. But I say there are three, because I've been on the third level of the Grand Central Station. Yes, I've taken the obvious steps. I talked to a psychiatrist friend of mine, among others. I told him about the third level at Grand Central Station, and he said it was a waving dream wish fulfillment. He said I was unhappy. He made my wife kind of mad, but he explained that he met the modern world is full of insecurity, fear, war, worry, and all the rest of it, and that I just want to escape. Well, who doesn't? Everybody I know wants to escape, but they don't wander down into any third level of Grand Central Station. But that's the reason, he said, and my friends all agreed. Everything points to it, they claimed. My stamp collecting, for example, that's a temporary refuge from reality. Well, maybe. But my grandfather didn't need any refugee from reality. Things were pretty nice and peaceful in his days. For all I hear, and he started my collection. It's a nice collection too. Blocks of four of practically every US issue, first day covers, and so on. President Roosevelt collected stamps too, you know. Anyway, here's what happened at Grand Central. One night last summer, I worked late at the office and I was in a hurry to go uptown to my apartment. So I decided to take the subway from Grand Central because it's faster than the bus. Now,
Thank you, Gayatri. Thank you so much. Yeah. Now, please underline the words which I'm asking you to underline. Stack. Stack means what, children? You stack your books. What is stack?
Stack, right?
Yeah, stack. S-T-A-C-K. It's a pile of objects, no? Typically, that's something that is neatly arranged. That is stack, a pile of objects. A pile of objects. Next, waking dream. Waking dream. Underline that. Waking dream. There's an involuntary dream occurring while a person is awake. Okay. An involuntary dream occurring while a person is awake. Then, refuge means, you all know, refuge. Refuge. No, like a shelter where you feel is very safe. I mean, safe. A place where you feel, a shelter where you feel where it is very safe from danger and difficulties that you're going through. So we have refugees in our country. So now coming back to the text, you will get to see what the story is beginning with the mention of a third level at the Grand Central Station, which only has 2 levels in real. Okay. And the protagonist himself is aware that even the presidents of New York Central and the New Haven and Hartford Railroads would express great confidence in the existence of only 2 levels, but he himself has been to the 3rd level. Okay, so look at this. Hartford Rails will swear in on a stack of timetables. So it's actually an idiom. Underline that, stack of timetables, children. To swear on a stack of Bibles is the real idiom that you have. You might have heard it. To swear on a stack of Bibles. So the author here humorously modified the established idiom. Just as the Christian Bible was used for oath by ordinary people, so that the railway officials consider their timetable to be holy. Because why? It regulated their all activities. The timetable, the railway timetable is regulating all their activities, right? So they are considering it as their holy book. So upon that, they are swearing. So they are ready to swear. Considering the entire scenario, Charlie, the protagonist, had a word with his psychiatrist friend. So he himself knew that anyone would vouch that there are only 2 levels in Grand Central Station. But So he is talking about the third level, and so considering that this particular scenario, he is ready to talk to his psychiatrist, and he explained that Charlie, the psychiatrist, explained that Charlie was experiencing a waking dream wish fulfillment. Please underline that. Please underline. He said it was a waking dream wish fulfillment. Keep underlining. He said, I was unhappy. He explained that Charlie was experiencing a waking dream wish fulfillment, or in other words, a hallucination. Okay, according to the psychiatrist, Charlie was really unhappy. Upon explaining further, it became clear that it is the burden of all the modern problems that is pushing him to experience the apparent perception of something not present, and he tends to escape the reality. Charlie agreed with that, what his psychiatrist friend had to say, but he still found it a bit odd to have been to the third level of the Grand Central Station, because though his friend is trying to convince him that it's a waking dream wish fulfillment, he is startled to realize that he had visited the third level in Grand Central Station. And Charlie begins to believe in the possibility that he has been experiencing all this to escape the harsh realities of the modern world. So his friends agreed to it as well. Even his stamp collecting is a sort of asylum he resorts to in order to be protected. On the other hand, he starts thinking otherwise. Friend says that what? But that the reason he said, and my friends all agree, even everything points to it. They claimed that is the friends are telling, okay, my stamp collecting, for example, that's a temporary refuge from reality. Well, maybe he too is. But what is the mismatching thing here? His grandfather started a stamp collection, but in those days they had not seen the consequences of war, and there was peace, harmony, and security everywhere. And his grandfather must have not been insecure at all. But then he started the stamp collection. So there is no logic in saying that the stamp collection, the philosophy that he is following, is a refuge from this harsh reality. So the collection, moreover, was amazing, with lots of code of practically every US issue. And even the President Roosevelt collected stamps. So all these people lived before the World War, and they didn't have any sort of issues. And why they should start this? So unless and until they too had faced the World War or had gone through the harsh realities of World War, yes, you can agree that this is a refuge. What? Stamp collection. Just like that, this is a waking dream wish fulfillment. But since grandfather had started this philosophy, he cannot agree. So now he starts explaining what exactly happened, and begins with how he chose to take the subway to his apartment instead of the usual bus after a late night shift. So he did this in order to save time. Okay, that particular night he was late, and he chose the subway to his apartment instead of the bus because he wanted to reach home early. Now, before we continue, I think it's time for you for a short break. Let's see what is going to happen next after a short break, 10 minutes break. We'll come back, okay? Yeah.
Okay, ma'am.
Are you all back? Nice.
Yes, ma'am.
Shall we continue?
Yes, ma'am.
Priyanka? Yeah. Priyanka,
Yes, ma'am.
can you please read the text for me from where we stopped? Page number 2, third paragraph or the second paragraph in fact. Now I don't know why this should,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, please.
Now, I don't know why this should have happened to me. I'm just an ordinary guy named Charlie, 31 years old. I was wearing a tan gabardine,
Gabadi. No.
gabardine suit and a straw hat with a fancy band. I passed a dozen men who looked just like me, and I wasn't trying to escape from anything. I just wanted to get home to Louisa, my wife. I turned into Grand Central from Vanderbilt Avenue and went down the steps to the first level where you take trains like the 20th century. Then I walked down another flight to the second level where the suburban trains leave from, ducked into an arched doorway heading for the subway, and got lost. That's easy to do. I've been in and out of Grand Central hundreds of times, but I'm always bumping into new doorways and stairs and corridors. Once I got into a tunnel about a mile long and came out in the lobby of the Roosevelt Hotel. Another time I came up in an office building on 46th Street, 3 blocks away. Sometimes I think Grand Central is growing like a tree, pushing out new corridors and staircases like roots. There's probably a long tunnel that nobody knows about feeling its way under the city right now, on its way to Times Square, and maybe another to Central Park. And maybe because for so many people, though the years Grand Central has been an exit, a way of escape, maybe that's how the tunnel I got into. But I never told my psychiatrist friend about that idea. The corridor I was in began angling left and slanting downward, and I thought that was wrong. But I kept on walking. All I could hear was the empty sound of my own footsteps, and I didn't pass a soul. Then I heard that sort of hollow roar ahead that means open space and people talking. The tunnel turned sharp left. I went down a short flight of stairs and came out on the third level at Grand Central Station. For just a moment, I thought I was back on the second level, but I saw the room was smaller. There were fewer ticket windows and train gates, and the information booth in the center was wood and old looking. And the man in the booth wore a green eye shade and long black sleeve protectors. The lights were dim and sort of flickering. Then I saw why. They were open flame gas lights.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. So now we can see some difficult words. Please underline gabardine. Gabardine. You can write a smooth, durable cotton cloth. Smooth, durable cotton cloth. Suburban is what? Residential. Okay. Duck. Duck here means bend down. Lower the head or body quickly. That is duck. D-U-C-K-E-D. Duck. Bend down. You can say lower your body quickly. Head or body quickly. That's what. Arched is what? Curved. Arched. Curved. You all know what an arch. Bumping means what, children? Run into something, right? Not called run into something, it's bumping. Just go and bump on something. So now we can see that the protagonist, he is describing himself. He describes himself as an ordinary man of 31, dressed in tan gabardine suit and a straw hat with a fancy band. So you saw the straw hat, you saw the tan gabardine. Yeah, you can easily relate it. So it was so ordinary that he could see other similar men at the station. Everyone was dressed up like him. Okay. And he explains how he was in his normal state of mind and not wanting to escape from anywhere. He was perfectly all right there. He's telling that how sane he is. Okay. Then while he is traveling. All he wanted was to be with his wife Lisa at that hour. And he still doesn't understand why this happened to him, only with him. See? And I wasn't trying to escape from anything. I just wanted to get home. Louisa, my wife. Let's see, I turned into Grand Central from Vanderbilt Avenue. Vanderbilt Avenue is a thoroughfare, okay, in New York City. A street thoroughfare in New York City. Street thoroughfares in that New York City is Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Staten Island. So it's a place, a juncture. Okay, so now you saw where he entered from in that slide. So he just entered from to this Grand Central Station from that Vanderbilt Avenue and took the stairs to the first level where one boarded trains like the 20th century. So now he is in 20th century and he is pretty sure because why people around him are all dressed like him and he is totally perfectly all right. He is not trying to escape from anywhere. He was just heading to his house just to meet his wife. So then he went down another floor to reach the second level from where the suburban trains leave. So from there, he entered an arched doorway and got lost. You saw the corridors and the way, the arched paths, no, the ways, the corridors. So it was nothing unusual for him because even if he had come to that station 1,000 times, there were occasions he bumped into new corridors and new doorways. So if you have been to our medical college hospital, I don't know how many of you have entered this Calicut Medical College, visited Calicut Medical College. Have you ever been to Calicut Medical College for any reason?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
And how was your experience? Whoever told yes. If you're asked to go meet a particular person in a particular floor, in a particular room, do you think is it possible for you now? Tejas?
No, ma'am.
No. It's so confusing, no? The corridors, the stairs, the paths, everything is so confusing that you get lost in that building. Unless and until someone is there to guide you, you will never reach your destination in Medical College Hospital. Because I have experienced it many a time. No? When you want to go meet someone or any doctors or someone in person, it's impossible unless and until there is someone to guide you through the path. So that is what he is telling. He is telling that he has gone to that station 1,000 times. Even then, he had bumped into new corridors and new doorways. Yeah. So it was not at all a new thing for him. He had lost his way many a time. So once he entered the wrong lobby and reached, once he is telling, once he had lost his path, his way, and he had entered the wrong lobby and reached where? Roosevelt Hotel, the lobby of Roosevelt Hotel, and another time in an office building which was 3 blocks away. So that's confusing the corridors there. That is what he is trying to tell by saying this. Okay, that's easy to do. I've been in and out of Grand Central hundreds of times, but I'm always bumping into new doorways and stairs and corridors. Once I got into a tunnel about a mile long and came out in the lobby of the Roosevelt Hotel. So it's very casual thing for him because he had lost his way and reached many other different places, the lobby of Roosevelt Hotel and somewhere an office building which was 3 blocks away and all by getting lost in this way. Now he wondered that Grand Central was expanding. Sometimes I think Grand Central is growing like a tree, pushing out new corridors and staircases. So he feels that it was expanding at a very fast rate, just like a tree and with its roots. It's not a big deal, but then even he is telling that it's not at all a big deal. It has even a secret tunnel under the city to the Times Square or maybe the Central Park. He's telling that it's not at all. Here, it is not a big deal. So see, there's probably long tunnel that nobody knows about feeling its way under the city right now on its way to Times Square and maybe another to Central Park. Yeah. So these secret tunnels might lead you to the Central Park or even to the Times Square. That's what he's saying. And maybe because for so many people through the years, Grand Central has been an exit, a way of escape. So he never shared this. He feels it might be because Grand Central is a place of exit for innumerable people, and he also managed to escape reality because of the same reason. And although he never shared this, he never wanted to share this with his psychiatrist friend, because why? What would he say if he shared this? There was nothing like third level. The friend would say that, the psychiatrist friend would say that there was nothing like third level, but a mere figment of Charlie's imagination. So he never shared that. He had got an exit through this Grand Central Station mania time. So now we will see that the corridor I was in began angling left and slanting downward, and I thought that was wrong. So unusual corridor he had entered into began angling left and slanting downward, which he felt odd about, but nevertheless he kept on walking. And there was no one except him, and the voice of his feet echoed. Since the corridor was empty, he could hear it, right? So he finally heard the sound of people talking from distance. Then he took a left, no? The tunnel turned sharp left. I went down a short flight of stairs. So he took a left and walked down the stairs again, only to reach the third level of the Grand Central. Now, once again, he has landed up in that third level. So he thought he had somehow made his way back to the second level, but as he noticed, the room was much, much smaller. We have to underline that. Okay, I went down for just a moment, I thought I was back on the second level. He never thought that he was heading towards the third level. He thought that he has reached the second level. But what did he notice? Please underline. I saw the room was smaller. There were fewer ticket windows and train gates and the information booth in the center. So he thought that he had somehow made his way back to the second level. But then he noticed that the room was comparatively smaller. There were a fewer ticket windows than the 20th century, and the train gates and the information booth in the center was wood and old looking. We saw how it was done. The furnishing was done, in that picture. So the man in the booth was also different, and the station was dim lit for there were open flame gas lights. So he understood that the man was dressed up like this, the way I showed you in the picture. The man in the booth wore a green eye shade and long black sleeve protectors. So the lights were dim and sort of flickering, but then he didn't realize why the lights are flickering. Then only he noticed that it was an open flame gas light. So then he realized that he has ended up in this he has reached in the third level of the Grand Central Station. So far he thought that he is going to enter, he has entered the second level. Okay. Next, who is going to read? Who is going to read for me? Let me see. Adit, are you there?
Yes, miss.
Can you please read the text for me now?
Ma'am, when did this problem start for this Charlie?
Sorry?
Ma'am, when did this problem start for Charlie, this hallucination?
When the story is happening, whenever it is. So recently, that is why no particular time is mentioned when exactly he started thinking about the third level. But then accidentally one day, while he is a regular traveler, okay, commuter through the subway, and one fine day he reached the third level. Okay, he reached the third level, and when he spoke about that, or when he realized that there is he knew that there is no third level. That's why he is going to a psychiatrist and taking his opinion. That's when the psychiatrist says, no particular time is told. Since he is a regular commuter, one fine day he just landed in that third level. That's it. Okay, Adit,
Yes, miss.
can you please read the text for me?
Yeah.
Page number 4.
Okay. There were brass spittoons on the floor, and across the station, a glint of light caught my eyes.
A man was pulling a gold watch from his vest pocket. He snapped open the cover, glanced at his watch, and frowned. He wore a derby hat, a black four-button suit with tiny lapels, and he had a big black handlebar mustache. Then I looked around and saw that everyone in the station was dressed like 1890 something. I never saw so much beard, sideburn, and fancy mustache in my life. A woman walked in through the train gate. She wore a dress with leg of mutton sleeve and a skirt to the top of her high button shoes. Back of her out of the tracks, I caught a glimpse of a locomotive, a very small courier and I locomotive with a shaped stack. And then I knew. To make sure, I walked over to a newsboy and glanced at the stack of papers at his feet. It was The World, and The World hasn't been published for years. The lead story said something about President Cleveland. I found that front page since the public library files, and it was printed June 11, 1894. I
Okay,
turned toward.
thank you. Thank you, Anand. Thank you. Now, please underline the first line. You can see spittoon. Spittoon, you saw a pot or a metal earthenware, whatever you can write. It is usually metal. Earthware to use for spitting into spittoon. The term itself suggests the meaning. Glint is what children say. Second line, glint. The station, glint of light caught my eye. Flashes of light, small flashes of light. Okay. Glint is small flashes of light. So then derby hat you have seen in that picture. It's very clear, right? Then black four-button suit. Suits you have seen, tiny lapels you saw, the lapels of the suit. Yeah, I showed you in the picture. Then he had a big black handlebar mustache. You saw that, how it looks like. Then sideburns you saw, the sideburns of men in 1890s. Then fancy mustaches. He is seeing it for the first time in his life. Okay, woman walks into the train gate. She wore dress with leg of mutton sleeves. You saw the dress and skirts the top of her high button shoes. I showed you a black high button shoe. Yeah, you saw that. Yeah. And out of the tracks, I got a glimpse of a locomotive, very small courier and I locomotive also. I showed you how it looked like. Yeah, funnel shape. And then I knew. So now I hope the word meanings are clear to you all. Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now Charlie could see what he noted was everything was different in that particular level. So he could see brass spittoons everywhere when suddenly a glimpse of light caught his eye and he saw a man pulling his gold watch from the vest. You saw the gold watch kept inside the vest in that picture. So he was dressed in an old-fashioned style. So suddenly he noticed that everyone was dressed like the 19th century. Okay, and it was basically the time before Jalanta is there. Jalanta. Is Jalanta here? No.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, dear. Please read the rest of the text for me. Where did we stop, Jalanta? Page number?
Miss 4.
4. Yeah, from there you have to be the last paragraph, second last paragraph. I turned toward the ticket window, knowing that from there. For the third paragraph onwards.
1894, and I wanted 2 tickets to Galesburg, Illinois. Have you ever been there? It's a wonderful town stud with big old frame houses, huge lawns, and tremendous trees whose branches meet overhead and roof the streets. And in 1894, summer evenings were twice as long, and people sat out on their lawns, the men smoking cigars and talking quietly, the women waving palm leaf fans with the fireflies all around in a peaceful world. To be back there with the First World War still 20 years old and World War II over 40 years in the future. I wanted 2 tickets for that. The clerk figured the fare. He glanced at my fancy hatband, but he figured the fare, and I had enough for 2 coach tickets one way. But when I counted out the money and looked up, the clerk was staring at me and nodded at the bills. That ain't money, mister, he said. And if you're trying to skin me, you won't get very far. And he glanced at the cash drawer beside her. Of course, the money was old style bills, half again as big as the money we use nowadays and different looking. I turned away and got out fast. There's nothing nice about jail, even in 1894.
Okay, thank you, Jolanta. So now immediately he went to the ticket window. He confirmed that he has reached the third level. He is in the 19th century. So what he did was, he didn't waste any time. He quickly went to I turned toward the ticket window, knowing that here on the third level at Grand Central, I could buy tickets. That's why he is rushing to the ticket counter. Okay, he was pretty sure that he would get the ticket for Galesburg, Illinois for him and his wife. So it was a wonderful sound. He is now explaining how that place looks like. So please underline that part. Okay, children? I could buy tickets. We wanted to go in the year 1894. We wanted to travel back to 1894 to that place, Galesburg, Illinois. And I wanted 2 tickets to Galesburg. So now, have you ever been there? Now, please start marking from there. It's a wonderful town still. So he is telling that it was a very wonderful town with a lot of greenery. And he was well aware that from here, one could buy tickets that would take them anywhere in the United States. So he describes how things were in 1894 before the 2 world wars took place. So evenings were twice as long as they were now, and men and women living in peace and serenity. You see that? Summer evenings were twice as long as they are now, and people sat out in their lawns, the men smoking cigars, and the fireflies all around. You can imagine that scene in a peaceful world. To be back there with the First World War still 20 years off, and World War II over 40 years in the future, I wanted 2 tickets for that. So he's telling it was a peaceful countryside in the year 1894 when the First World War was 20 years away and Second World War was 40 years away. That means the World War has not yet occurred. The time when he wants to go back is there. It is 1894. When did this World War take place, children? The years? Can you just tell me the years? World War I?
1914.
Who knows? 19?
14, 1980.
Okay. World War II? First World War took place in 1914 and lasted for 4 years. And the Second World War in 1939 and ended in which year, you know?
1940.
1945. Okay. So now he has gone to the ticket counter to collect the ticket. So as the clerk calculated the fare, he looked at Charlie's fancy hatband. Okay. It was funny for him because he was from a different world. He has traveled all the way. He has traveled the time and he has reached into a different place. So for that man, he was a misfit in that place. Okay. So he was dressed up in a weird way. So he was looking at Charlie's fancy hatband. Okay. And Charlie just had enough for one-sided journey when he counted. So just as he took out money, the clerk informed that this is not the acceptable legal tender, and by any chance, if he tries to be smart, he won't be able to get away with it. So that's why he is telling that ain't money, mister. He said, if you're trying to skin me means cheat me. Okay, fool me. You won't get very far. So he glanced at his cash drawer and realized that currency, Charlie is glancing at this man's cash drawer and he realizes that the currency used back then was entirely different and almost double the size what he is using now. So he ran out because he didn't want to go to jail, even if it was in 1894. So he just escaped from there. Now, who is going to read for me? Amen. Ian.
Yes, master.
Yeah.
And that was that. I left the same way I came, I suppose. Next day during the lunch hour, I drew $300 out of the bank, nearly all we had, and bought old style currency that really worried my psychiatric friend. You can buy old money at almost only coin dealers, but you have to pay a premium. My $300 bought less than 200 in old style bills, but I didn't care. Eggs were 13 cents a dozen in 1894. But I've never again found the corridor that leads to the third level at Grand Central Station. Although I've tried often enough, Louisa was pretty worried when I told her all this and didn't want me to look for the third level anymore. And after a while, I stopped. I went back to my stamps, but now we are both looking every weekend because now we have proof that the third level is still there. My friend Sam Weiner disappeared. Nobody knew where, but I sort of suspected because Sam is a city boy and I used to tell him about Galsburg. I went to school there and he always said he liked the sound of the place and that's where he is, all right, in 1894.
Okay.
Because
Okay, thank you, Amen. So now, and that was that. Means the day ended after he came out. Okay. And the next day he went to withdraw his entire savings and got them converted into old money by paying some premium. Premium is what, children? A surcharge, an extra charge. Okay. So it cost him much and even this worried his psychiatrist friend, but he still went with it. So back then, according to Charlie, eggs were 13 cents a dozen in 1894. So my $300 bought less than, please underline that, my $300 bought less than 200 in old style bills. So in those days, $200 would have more value as things were much cheaper than they were now. So you can imagine, no? So if you can relate it to your day-to-day life, children. When you talk to your grandparents, say, for example, you have bought a new mobile or something like that, and your grandparents is there at home, not the present generation grandparents I'm talking about, okay? My time enough. So maybe even now you might find some such parents, grandparents who really value money. And then they ask you about the price and all. When you say it cost me 25,000, they like, no, they'll say, hearing the price of the phone, right? They can't even imagine buying a thing at that cost. So that was too expensive for them. Likewise, in this, Charlie is telling that those days $200 would have more value. He got it converted, though the amount he cost when he got converted was comparatively less than the real amount he actually had. So how much he went and gave? $300 out of bank. All their entire savings it is, okay. Charlie's and his wife's entire savings is that. Nearly all we had. And for old style currency, that really worried my psychiatrist friend, okay, because he has changed the, you cannot use that currency in this present world, right? In this present century, 20th century, you cannot use the 19th century's currency. And he had all got it converted. So now this bothered the psychiatrist friend. So you can buy old money at almost any coin dealers, but you have to pay a premium, that's all. So my $300 bought less than 200 in old style bills, that's what he is saying. And eggs were 13 cents a dozen in 1894. So now, if you ask me, $1 is equal to 100 cents. Okay, so 2 nickels means 10 cents. And 10 pennies plus 1 nickel is 15 cents. That's the calculation if you want to do. So now, but I never again found the corridor. So, but unfortunately, he could never find, soon after he got his bills converted, he could never ever find the way to the third level corridor again, despite his hard efforts. So his wife Luza, what is his wife's name? You should underline and keep, okay? His wife Luza was pretty worried when she got to know about it all. So after a while, he went back to finding distractions with the help of the stamp. So he thought of giving up in searching this third eye. So somehow Stan, the psychiatrist, disappeared out of the blue. Okay, and now Charlie suspected that he had gone to Galesburg and he finds himself in the time space of 1894. My friend Sam Dana disappeared. So actually that is his psychiatrist. You'll get to know in the last. Actually, I shouldn't have told that. Nobody knew where, but I sort of suspected because Sam's a city boy. You should underline that, okay? And I used to tell him about Galesburg. I went to school there and he always said he liked the sound of the place and that's where he is. All right, in 1894. So Sam was allured by the descriptions of Galesburg, told by whom? Charlie. Since he was born and brought up in a city, he always admired that particular place just by the description that we had heard from Charlie. So now, moving on. Next person who is going to read is Yara. Your mic is okay? No. Okay. Next, Janvi. Janvi, are you there? Janvi, are you there in the class? I can't hear you, Mole. You have unmuted, I know, but then your sound is not heard. Issue with the mic, probably. Can I move on with Tarini? Tarini, Janvi, it's okay, Janvi. Please do it next time. Tarini, can you unmute your mic? Tarini. Niranjana. Tarini too is not responding. Niranjana, are you there, Niranjana?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you please read it for me? Okay.
Because one night, fussing with my stamp collection, I found. Well, do you know what a first day cover is? When a new stamp is issued, stamp collectors buy some and use them to mail envelopes to themselves on the very first day of the sale. And the postmark proves the date. The envelope is called a first day cover, and they've never opened, just put blank paper in the envelope. That night, among my oldest first day covers, I found one that shouldn't have been there, but there it was. It was there because someone had mailed it to my grandfather at his home in Galesburg. That's what the address on the envelope said, and it had been there since July 1894. The postmark showed that, yet I didn't remember it at all. The stamp was a 6-cent dull brown with a picture of President Garfield. Naturally, when the envelope came to my granddad in the mail, it went right into his collection and stayed there till I took it and opened it. The paper inside wasn't blank. It read, Charlie, I got to wishing that you were right. Then I got to believing you were right. And Charlie, it's true. I found the third level. I've been here for 2 weeks, and right now, down the street at the Dailies, someone is playing a piano, and they're all out in the front porch singing Seeing Nellie Home. And I'm invited over for lemonade. Come on back, Charlie and Louisa. Keep looking till you find the third level. It's worth it, believe me. The note is signed Sam. At the stamp and coin store I got to, I found out Sam bought $800 worth of old style currency. That ought to set him up in a nice little hay, feed and grain business. He always said that's what he really wished he could do. And he certainly can't go back to his old business. Not in Galesburg, Illinois in 1894. His old business? Why, Sam was my psychiatrist.
Okay. So, actually that's where the question is unveiled. I accidentally came out of my mouth. That's psychiatrist is missing. So now he was sure that his friend has gone to that Galesburg. So one night, because one night, he is telling why. One night, fussing with my stamp collection. The first day, my stamp collection, I found, well, do you know what a first day cover is? The answer is given there itself. Please underline. He's talking about the first day cover. What is it? When a new stamp is issued, stamp collectors buy some and use them to mail on envelopes to themselves on the very first day of sale. And the postmark proves the date. Okay? This envelope is called the first day cover. They are never opened. You just put blank paper in the envelope just to collect the stamps. Stamp collectors would do that. So he had one. Okay, first cover. So I found, well, do you know, because one night passing with my stamp collection, I found he's talking about what is first day cover. That night, among my oldest first day covers, I found one that shouldn't have been there. So that night he found by surprise one of his grandfather's first day covers. Okay, so someone had mailed it to his father at his home at Galesburg. As we saw there from the address on the envelope, the postmark shows that it had been there since July 18, 1894. Okay? And the stamp had a picture of President Garfield on it. Okay, and it was a 6-cent dull brown color stamp, and his grandfather had put it in his stamp collection, and Charlie now discovered it. So the paper inside, there was a letter written in, and the letter read like this. What is it? Charlie. The address is there, 941 Willard Street, Galesburg, Illinois, July 18, 1894. The date and all has to be projected. Okay, Charlie, I got to wishing that you were right. Then I got to be believing you were right. And Charlie, it is true. I found the third level. I've been here 2 weeks, and right now, down the street at the Dallies, someone is playing a piano, and they are all out on the front porch singing, "Seeing Nellie Home." And I am invited over for a lemonade. So come on back, Charlie and Louisa. Keep looking till you find the third level. It is worth it, believe me. So the letter talks about how the writer, whoever wrote the letter, wished his third level story was true. Charlie's third level story was true until he actually started believing it to be true. Now he found the third level, the writer of this letter, and had been there for 2 weeks. Now he describes the place he was at that time, and he asked Charlie and Louisa to never stop searching for the third level and come back. So he was invited for a lemonade. So then it was the party like that. Okay, people would invite each other, and he was invited for the party. And he is, actually encouraging Charlie and Louisa to not to give up on the search of this, what level? Third level. So it says that Sam wasn't as incredulous of the third level as he had to be. He though was keeping on telling his friend that it was your waking dream, wish fulfillment and all. He was not that doubtful about what Charlie was speaking. That's what we get to know from this letter, right? So now the letter had been signed off as Sam. Charlie found out from the coin store. He quickly started an inquiry on this. So he went to the coin store that he used to visit, that Sam had, from there he understood that Sam had got old currency worth $800, which was to be utilized in what, children? In a hay, feed and grain business. You have to underline and keep that. What business this Sam starts in Galesburg? Question will come. So one word it will be. So nice little hay, feed and grain business. That ought to set up him in a nice little hay, feed and grain business. He always said that's what he really wished he could do. He always wanted to do that. And he could not go back to his old business, certainly not in Galesburg, Illinois. What was his business? Old business? He was a psychiatrist. So, what? So it's an open-ended. You can conclude it. You can interpret in different ways. Whether a third level is there? Do you think after reading the story, do you think a real third level exists?
Ma'am, one doubt.
Yeah.
And how did Charlie return to this 28th century after going there?
That's what Nazil, it was all his hallucination, right? That is why he accidentally entered the third level and he gets to see all these things. But we can see that he is explaining what all he saw in that third level. But we do not know whether that third level really exists or not. So Jack Perry is leaving us wondering what the third level really is. That is the highlight of the story. Okay. Even though Charlie is able to find proof and make the transition back and forth in time, we get to see, you ask me, how did he come back? It just happened. He just rushed out of the
Ma'am, but like his friend has sent him a letter,
yeah,
right?
that is what, yeah, that is the proof. That is Charlie is serving as a proof for existence of that third level at the grand conclusion by showing us that letter. So maybe it's a science fiction. It might have happened. Okay, it's a fiction. Is it clear, children? So it is up to the readers to wonder what exactly had happened. You can interpret in your own way. Yeah? So it might have happened or it might not have happened. The real third level might be there or may not be there. So he is showing us the proof that third level existed by showing the letter from Sam. He found the letter which was posted, the year is 1894, July 18 by Sam to him. Yes? So we readers can interpret that, yes, there is a third level. Yeah? And his friend has managed to reach there and live a happy life there. He is enjoying himself over there. That's why he is asking his friends not to stop searching for this third level. Okay?
So he spent the rest of his life there.
Yeah, maybe. Sam reached there. Sam always wanted to reach there, being a city boy. He loved the Galesburg, which was described and heard from Charlie. He wanted to live his life, rest of his life. That's why he converted the money, $800 he had with him, and he is safe and sound in that 19th century. Do you think it's possible in real life? I don't think. Yeah. So it is just a fiction. So the ending of the story is puts you in a dilemma, the reader in a dilemma, whether this thing has really happened or not, whether to believe it or not. Yes, all these things are there in your mind, I know. So you can interpret it in different ways. Yes, since Charlie succeeds in finding an evidence related to third level existence, we can count on him. Yeah, because why? As I told, he discovers a letter addressed to him by his psychiatric friend, Sam. Okay? Nobody is responding. No, I can't hear a yes or a no or nothing.
Yes, ma'am.
I can't even see your face.
Yes, ma'am.
This is so weird, I must say. Just talking to a screen like this for hours and hours. You have to respond when the teacher asks you something.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, so anything else? Any doubts? Anyone? I'm here, you can ask.
No, ma'am.
So to conclude this chapter, I can say that even the characters within the story reflect upon Charlie, because again, his time travel experience as a type of manifestation that occurred due to suppressed feelings and wishful thinking. So despite such practical theories and real advice that came from responsible people in his life, Charlie goes on to discover that it was indeed possible to travel back in time and visit his old home just as his heart wanted through the proof of a letter. Okay, so that is what the plot develops with many arguments against the possibility and logic of what he had experienced. But in the end, the author retains a little magic in his story to give the message to his readers what that a bit of fanciful inspiration is required in times of distress. Yeah, to make oneself feel safe and happy. That is why the story ended like this. Yes, tell me.
Ma'am, do you believe in time travel?
I wish I could travel in time, my dear. I am a person who misses a lot my childhood days. A person who desperately wants to travel back in time and reach back to my school days. A time when it was a carefree time. Yeah, where I don't have to worry about anything other than the examinations and the answer papers. The rest was all, no, I don't have to worry about what should I do next, what my career will be like, what should I have to worry about my children, I have to take the responsibility of my family, my parents. Then it was a blissful state, the childhood state. So I always wanted to travel back in time and I wish this was possible ever. Okay, so children, that's all for today. You can go through the text again. You can ask me doubts. And my session, yeah?
Ma'am, how can it be?
No, Nandana. Tell me,
ma'am, how can it be escapism if it actually happened?
No, he is actually, he didn't say that it actually happened or not. Yes, it's up to the reader's discretion whether to make it, believe it as this really happened, or we can still say that it's all Charlie's hallucination. Yes or no? It is nowhere said that this really happened. Even Charlie himself can write and keep that letter. And he was thinking about that past. See, to make others believe, he might have done it. You can interpret in that way also, right, Nandana? Don't you think like that? To make to make the others believe that this has really happened. Don't know what happened to Sam and all. You just leave that part. It's all fiction. Don't. So Sam might have traveled somewhere else, and he might be trying to make his wife convinced that this time traveling is really possible. You have seen the movie Manichitra Tharal, no? Dual personality, where no.
That's not even a question for people here. It's always there. Everyone would have already seen it.
Yeah, if it was really a thing which is still existed, all might have taken an exit through that passage and gone into that world. Yeah, definitely. So it's all a figmentation, an imagination of this central character, Charlie. That's what I like to believe because I'm a person who wants to escape to past. Otherwise, I'll also start searching for that exit to the third level. Okay, children, now it's time for us to wind up. It's already 10:11. Science students, due to some technical issues, I got a message from Ansha ma'am that you won't be having your chemistry period, but 12C students all have to join the commerce class. Sindhu ma'am will be waiting there with the account session. So do not forget to join your commerce class account session. Science students can leave the class and study. Okay, for today. Due to some technical issues.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.